Welcome to another edition of the Sim Racing Garage. I'm Barry Rowland. In this episode, we will be reviewing the RS5 sim racing wheel from R Racing. Sporting a solid-feeling one-piece carbon front plate with 12 buttons, 2 encoders, and magnetic shifters, this looks to be another great wheel for sim racers looking to get into a custom solution. Time to put it through the SRG's review process and see how it does. So, let's get to it. The first thing about this wheel, it is dimensionally 305 millimeters wide, which I think is a sweet spot for covering all types of GT cars, and you can even use it in your open wheel cars without feeling too much out of sorts if you instead of using like a 275 millimeter wheel for F1 or something, and still gets the job done. It's, like I said, it's kind of like the sweet spot for me personally when it comes to wheels. I really like that size. Now, we have some grips on here that feel pretty good. They have some kind of a synthetic leather on here. Their website description claims that it is like Alcantara, or Alcantara, however you want to say it. And it feels about the same. You can actually get different grips on here if you want. You can get some suede on here. And you might even be able to get different colors. So, yeah, that's in their website too. This is a custom wheel, remember, so you can order it just about any way you want it. Now, the feel of the grip. This is a 70, what they say is a 70 Shore on the polyurethane they're using for the injection on molding process on this grip, and it feels pretty good. In fact, when I first got this out of the box, I was clenching it and bending it back and forth like I always do, and it felt pretty good. It feels very stiff. Of course, the litmus test will be once we put it on a direct drive force feedback wheel and turn the torque up and see how it manages that. But I was very surprised, to be honest, how stiff this feels out of the box. This has really got a good stiffness to it. There's enough stiffness in the grip itself at the 70 Shore or 70A Shore rating that you can push a little bit on it, but for the most part, it feels pretty solid, but it's still got some give to it. And I like the shape of this grip, not from the front so much because this is a very common kind of a shape for the front, but the back of this, or the rear, let's get a shot of it there, has this, see how steep this indentation is where it drops off? And of course, it rolls off here too, but that roll is very steep and it stays there. A lot of times, this will be a nice smooth arc here, or radius, that goes from this part of the grip down to where it intersects or actually attaches to the whatever it's attaching to, in this case carbon fiber. And it allows me, when I get the front of my hand on here, it allows me to get my fingers in there, right into that grip, right in there, which helps me hold the wheel. And I like that. Instead of having, I couldn't do that if it was filled in less of a radius here of material. So I kind of like the way they've gone with this grip. Feels very ergonomic to me personally. Of course, that can be a subjective thing. Everybody might not rather agree with that, but it feels good to me. It just allows me to not only get a squeezing grip around this part with the palm of my hand as normal and my fingers, but now my fingertips can get engaged a bit. But I do have a small hand. I wear a size small glove when I order gloves, so that should give you an idea how big my hand is. Someone with really big hands won't have the same advantage. Obviously, they'll be just kind of grabbing it and probably their fingers end up in here somewhere. All right, but the grip feels good. And again, you can get suede on here if you want and other things. You have to ask. Just go to the website now because they will custom build this any way you want it. So nice grips, nice width on the grips as far as diameter goes. And yeah, I really like that. And the stiffness all came together as soon as I pulled it out of the box and had it in hand. And that's so important. It's really hard for me to convey what something feels like, obviously, in a video, or pictures are even worse. You have to have things in hand to really get a good sense of what they feel like. Yeah, this is right down my alley. I can tell you that. It feels pretty good. Now, we also have this big piece of carbon here that is 4 millimeters thick. And it runs, of course, into the grips, because that's how the grips are attached to the injection molding. So this is all one carbon sheet. It's a good looking carbon sheet as far as there's no defects that I could find anywhere in the weaves. And I always look for stuff like that when I'm looking at carbon fiber, because you'd be surprised how many times you can find that in carbon fiber. But here, no defects at all. We have some buttons, as you might have noticed, with these bright stickers around it. You can order these stickers any way you want to also. You have to email them and tell them if you want different colors or if you want different words. You can see some of the words on here. We've got beam and start and all kinds of stuff, mute, wiper, map, and you can actually customize where you want these and the color of these stickers to be on your wheel when you order it. Of course, they'll always have the R Racing insignia in the middle, or maybe you could order it without that if you don't like that there either. But again, this is what custom wheels are all about. The buttons themselves. These are nice APM units. They feel very good to the touch when you're using them, when you have your finger on the grip here, and they're all pretty much within reach of where you go. As my hand rotates around there, when I have it in the grip, it feels pretty good. Nice arc in there, so easy to get to each one of these. And if you're a VR user, easy enough to map out in your mind, like wherever your thumb is naturally would be on the grip, and take it out, you can feel one button, and then you know you got two more up here and two more down there. Use one as your center, and you can work your way around it. Right. We also have two of the same buttons on the back, like that. Pretty cool, huh? So when I'm driving and I'm working my shifters, I can actually assign something to this button up here if I want to adjust brake bias up or down or something while I'm in the braking zone holding on tight or whatever you want to do. So it gives us a total of 12 buttons on this wheel. Back around the front. The buttons themselves, you can order these in different colors if you want. So you can have different color caps. So yeah, just about anything you want to do from what I saw on the website. Now we have some rotaries in here, and these are CTS units, which are a well-known name brand, just like the APM for the push buttons. And they have very nice detents in them, very solid feeling, and they have nice spacing on the detents, not real close to where if you try to get one, you get two, and not so far away that you really got to reach to make a change to something. But not real tight indentations, but just tight enough. I mean, it's very easy as far as the tactile feedback goes to know that you went over here and did a click on this, and you went over and did a click on that. Very easy to realize that. There's no play on the center posts that come out of these rotaries. I can feel it just by I'm twisting this back and forth. And yeah, these feel pretty darn good. I like these rotaries. Nothing's worse than a loose post in a rotary when you get it. It's just one of those things that, you know, is so avoidable. And it doesn't cost that much more to get something high quality or a good quality like the CST. And yeah, it's just one of those things. Why not if you're going to be using, or rather making, custom wheels for your customers? What else can we talk about here? Okay, we got some 3D knobs on these. Now this is a pretty dense 3D knob. It doesn't squeeze at all. There's no squishy or flexy feel to this, so it feels very solid. And you can see it, they have some set screws in here, and that's how they tighten it down on the rotaries shafts as they come up. We might take another closer look at that when we do our look inside segment. What else can we talk about here on this thing? I guess we pretty much covered all. We have some countersunk holes here, and we have 3 of them. And that's, of course, so we can mount an adapter or some kind of a hub on the back of this wheel and attach it to our wheelbase, whichever one that might be. And while we're on the back, let's talk about that. We have a 4-pin DIN, aviation style, if you will, type of plug set up here, which I like, instead of just a regular USB plug. Again, custom wheels should have stuff like that. And we can see the 3D printed back here is pretty tough. It's pretty stiff. I'm not sure what they're using on this, but it has that ticky sound to it. So it's not PL. I don't think it's regular PLA. PTEG maybe. I don't know. But anyway, it's a pretty good weave on here. I don't see a lot of defects in the 3D part. I don't know, well, that's showing up there. But yeah, and any scratching and rubbing, you see I've already had my adapter on here. I've already been running the wheel, obviously. I usually do that as soon as I take something out, if I'm reviewing it. I'll run it first, put it through its paces before I do anything as far as, you know, look insides and things like that, because you never know what happens when you're doing a look inside. We have some shifters, obviously. That's the big thing back here that we notice. And these are aluminum housings in here. We have aluminum levers that are in here. And you can see it is a magnetic shifter. And you can see there are the switches in there. And you can see that long metal piece that will be depressed and make the switch activate and get our shifts. And you can see that big, thick, 4mm thick carbon fiber paddle on here. The same thickness of our plate on the front up here, which is 4mm, right? So yeah, I love a thick paddle. 3mm, I think, is the minimum on a paddle. And that's without going in there and putting countersinks in them. Even though countersinks are nice, they do take a material away, and where you need strength, especially the attachment, yeah, I like to not see that in shifters. But a 4mm shifter, I probably wouldn't worry too much about it because it's very thick. And you can see the layup on that shifter, I think, if I get this thing to focus, right? You can see the lines in that. And again, carbon fiber, nice weave on that, no problems there. Only issue I have with these, well, there's two I have with these, is the magnets. You can see they're pretty small. I got a small hand, and yeah, it's not very big. That means you're not getting a lot of pressure or tactile feedback on this. You get tactile feedback on the stop when you're bumping into the stop like that, and they work fine. They never missed a shift. You know, like I said, they work fine. This is just one of those things that is something that I noticed because the shifters I use on my custom wheels have larger magnets in them, and it takes more force to make them work, to actually activate them and use them. But they get the job done. You know, it's just, again, this is a subjective thing that, again, it's just one. Once I pick it, I got a friend that came over, and he has a custom wheel with the heavier magnets in it, and he noticed that as soon as he picked it up too. He noticed two things. He says, wow, this is stiff, and wow, these are light as far as the shifter goes. But that could be a good thing too, depending on who you're talking to. The second thing is, when I have my hand wrapped around here in the racing position, like this, with the web of my hand in there like it should be, it's a little bit of a reach. See that? I'm only catching the edge of that paddle. I'm not having any problems. I can still activate the shifts, and I never missed any shifts because of this. But it's just one of those things where I'd like to see some kind of an adjustment here in this arm. You see, there's no extra set of holes here, right? So there's no adjustment. Now, if you got a bigger hand, obviously it's not a problem. You'll get centered on that shifter. It's just an aesthetic thing, a comfort thing, if you will, or something I'm used to on my other wheels. It didn't make me miss any shifts, but I'm just not getting as much of the paddle as I would like. Even just another 5 millimeters out would be fine, where I get more on it. But yeah, that's just one of those, again, personal things that I found that on the wheel that didn't match what I would like to have on it. But again, that's totally subjective, right? So anything else we want to talk about? I think that's about it. What do we get with this thing? Well, we get a nice cord. This is a 3-meter long cord right here. And this is a 4-pin DIN aviation style, if you will, type connector with the little screw-on piece here. So we plug that in to the back here. And we have a little, you can see a little guide up here, a little pin in there, keyway, if you will, or a key. And then we have a keyway in the slot here. And you make sure you just line those up, and it goes in pretty easy. And I like the way it sticks straight back like this, so it doesn't angle down and get down in the way maybe of your legs or something down there. So it sticks in the back where it's not going to get in the way of anything. And then when you have your quick release on here, it's going to take some room up out here and stick out too. So it'll kind of match what you have out here. So I like that they went straight back on this. And having that screw-in connection is nice and secure. Custom wheel should have this kind of thing instead of just a USB-B port or a regular mini port or something like that, or a micro. This is the way to go. 3-meter coiled, and we do have a nice ferrite core that they put on this to help mitigate EMI, RFI type of interference. Very nice. Always like to see the ferrite cores. If you guys see my reviews, you know that. Yeah, we got some screws. That's the only other thing that comes with it is a set of screws for us. Just around like that. And these are the flathead M5 screws. And they have an M3 or 3-millimeter hex size on them for cinching your quick release adapters like this to it. And we'll talk about that later. We also get a nylock nut. I'll just put this on here, easier to see. There's also a 5 mil, obviously. And I believe this is an 8-millimeter size for your wrench. And you can see that white nylon piece in there, and that just, once you cinch it down, that'll keep it from vibrating back off. So the nylock nut is pretty cool. Very simple, and this will fit nice and flush down in here, so it gives us a nice, pretty look on our custom wheel. See how that sits down there flush? As it should for a over $500 custom wheel, right? Okay, that's it for as far as the closer look goes. And what we'll do next is, yeah, let's just have a peek inside and see what's going on. Now for our look inside segment. So I have the wheel apart, as you can see. Now this is held together with 7 of these M3 6-millimeter long flathead screws. And that is a 2-millimeter hex size in there for those who are interested. And the back here, you can see we do, if you remember, have 2 switches up here. These APM units, we have our shifters. So of course we need corresponding connectivity to that. And that's what we have here. And we also have the connection down here for our 4-pin DIN connector for our USB cord. And it's very nicely done here. Every one of these has a nice Molex plug on it that goes to their corresponding spot on the board. And you can see we have some standoffs in here manufactured in the 3D printing process to make things nice and solid when we put the carbon piece on there and run our bolts through it and then cinch everything together. We also have some very nice inserts in here, little brass, looks like brass to me, threaded inserts. Very nicely done, very neat. I like this. It is flexy once you have this off and everything apart. I'm looking for flex, so this is where we're coming into the flex part. See, it is flexy. I don't want to be moving it like that, make it over exaggerate, but you can see, yeah. So let's take a look at the back here. Now this is where it's very neat, very professionally done. This is what I expect to see when I crack open a wheel, a custom wheel at this price range. And you can see this is a custom circuit board designed by R Racing. You can see their logo up there, and this is the version 1.1 board. We have some nice diodes arranged around here on our circuit board. You can see the traces going all through here. And of course, our corresponding Molex plugs for our switches and our shifters. And they actually say switch 13, switch 3, switch 14, and switch 9. So don't designate which ones are shifters or which ones are switches. But the switches are going up here because that's where the buttons are on the back. So yeah, up there. And this is where the shifters were, I believe. We'll find out when I put it back together, right? So here's the main plug here, the 4-pin for our 4-pin DIN connector. But just really nicely done here. This is very professional. You can see underneath here, that's how our buttons are actually attached to this board. They are soldered on, and you can see the corresponding solder patches right there for each button. We got one there, one there, one there, one there, one there. And of course, some diodes over here. And the quality of components continues on the inside. You can see this is no less than a Leo Bodner BU0836A board for USB conversion duties. Very nice indeed. So everything looks top quality and professional here. When you crack this puppy open, it really looks good inside. And again, something I would expect. We've got our CST rotaries in here. And we spin this around, and there's our shafts, nice solid shafts. Yeah, there's a little bit of lash in these shafts, but there has to be some, obviously, if we want to be able to turn them. Right? Yeah, they feel really good. Yeah, I like a good rotary. And of course, our buttons feel pretty good too, and we talked about that already. But yeah, as you can see, this is a very nicely done unit here. I really like what I'm seeing. I think anybody would like to see that in the wheel that is built for them. Very neat and tidy. And you can see this, the Bodner board is attached. And I don't know if you guys can see that. See the pins down underneath there? So it's kind of stuck into the pins that are the header that was soldered on here. Very neat. Very professional. No complaints here. And now that I have the 3D part off, I can get some flex in this, but not a ton that I would expect I would be getting. But yeah, when this is combined with all those bolts onto this housing, it's surprisingly stiff. Again, I said that in the closer look part. So yeah, there's not much else to see here on the closer, or rather look inside. We already did the closer look, Barry. Yeah, I'm impressed. I don't know about you guys, but this is really neat. Again, something I would expect to see in an over $500 custom wheel. It seems to be meeting the expectation at this point. Now it's time to get our wheel mounted to our wheelbase, and we're going to be running a direct drive force feedback wheelbase with a 20 Newton meter midge, which is going to be plenty of, I think, torque to test out the stiffness of this wheel, which I think it's going to do well. Now, I'm going to use the HRS quick release system, and this is called the Zero Play, right? And this particular flange has threaded holes in it. See those there all the way around in a 70 millimeter pattern. Of course, we're only going to use 3 of them because the wheel only has 3 holes in it. The reason I'm showing you that is these screws, these M5 screws that we're going to attach it with, will go into the thread. So I won't need to use these nylock nuts that come in the kit. So I just don't need these. So all I'm going to do is kind of hold this up here sideways like this and turn it at the angle that'll obviously match my holes. It's not going to be straight like this. It's going to be off to an angle a little bit, which is normal for this quick release system. And I usually just start with the top one, get it started, and we'll grab our other two and see how this goes. Should go in pretty well if all the holes are drilled right, and it seems like they are. Actually, the holes on this, when I was putting this wheel, taking it apart, doing it for the look inside and putting it back together, really everything just really lined up quite well. There was no, sometimes you have to take things and kind of force them a little bit one way or the other to get the screw to go in, but yeah, none of that with this wheel. Definitely well done as far as the holes go. Now, these particular screws, these M5s, have a 3mm hex size on it. So I'm going to be using my Huddy 3mm wrench and to tighten these down. And again, I kind of just will, if it will sit straight up and down like this, that's the way I like to do it. And just go ahead and spin them down. Real easy stuff here. Yeah, these are going down really nice. Oop. But it is a small little piece down there that's balancing on it. But if you do it right, we can at least get them down before I give it the final torque on these screws. So to make sure that obviously that we don't want them to come off. So then I would turn it this way and go ahead and give my final torque on this thing. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on this stuff, but you do want to make sure it's tight. And if you have a torque wrench or something, you can use one of those if you think you know where it should be as far as torque inches. There we go. I think that'll do. And there we have it. Quick release is attached. That's simple. It didn't have to use the nuts. And of course, we'll go ahead and attach this before I go over there. And remember, we do have a key in this plug there. You can see that there. And then we're going to plug it in the corresponding. You can see that little, get these wrenches out of my way. Right here in the plug itself, you can see there's a little keyway, if you will, or slot. Simple enough. Make sure you line it up, plug it in, and then we'll go ahead and screw our little collar down. I like these type of connectors. And there we have it. We are ready to go racing. So we'll go ahead and mount it up to the wheel, and when we come back, we'll take a look at how that went. I've got the wheel mounted now, and I used a 50mm or 2-inch spacer here to get the reach where I wanted it to be, and that's typically what I have to do with my particular setup on this P1X cockpit. We're going to be running the 20 Nm midge of the VRS Direct Force Pro wheel, so we'll have plenty of torque to test out this wheel with and see how that 3D printed back button plate section holds up to the stress. So now all we have to do is get in and drive it and see what we think. So we're at Sebring in iRacing in the Ferrari 488 GT3 as usual. And yeah, let's talk about the wheel. The buttons have a nice feel to them. They have a strong enough spring to let you know that you press the button. Even though there's no click or anything when you're pressing it, it does hit the stop very solidly. And again, I wouldn't expect less. These are a pretty decent quality switch, or rather button that we're using here. The rotaries did everything well too. Never had a problem with those. The detents felt good. Again, very easy to tell if you've went 1 notch or 2 notch if you're adjusting something using those rotaries. Now the shifters, this is where again, I wish they were a little bit more tactile feeling, and that would mean larger magnets. I just have something now on my other wheels that is just bigger magnets, so it gives me a better tactile feedback. Of course, that's subjective. You know, it's totally subjective. They didn't miss a shift. They worked as they should. The 4mm thick paddles were great. Just all came together. The reach for me, and again, I have small hands, could be a little better. I would like to see some kind of extension available for this. Maybe another 5mm would have done the trick for me personally. But again, we're talking about something that's subjective here. And the stiffness of the wheel is the biggest surprise here. Very stiff wheel. The only stiffer wheel I've had on this, in this kind of a design, is the Martin Asher, which is all aluminum and all aluminum housing in the back. But this does a very good job for stiffness. I would be completely satisfied with the performance as far as that goes with this wheel. But yeah, really not much to complain about when you're driving this wheel. So yeah, it just did a good job. So what we'll do next is go ahead and get on to the final thoughts. Final thoughts on the RS5 steering wheel from iRacing. With a 305mm diameter, the RS5 is one of those wheels that can pull double duty. It covers all of the GT and prototype cars, as well as open wheel cars. The front wheel plate is made of 4mm carbon fiber. It is a very stiff plate, and I could find no defects in the carbon weave. The front plate is populated with 10 APM brand push-button switches, with 2 more on the back 3D printed plate. I found it easy to reach all of them from the grip position. They have good spring pressure with minimal play. There are also 2 CTS rotor encoders on the bottom middle of the front plate. These are good quality encoders, with nice detents and very little play on the shafts. The RS5 uses a 3D printed knob on these encoders. They feel solid in hand with no flex detected. I do like the shape of the grips on the RS5. They have a firm feel to them without being too hard. The fabric on this RS5 is similar to Alcantara, but can be ordered with other material like suede leather. The material did have some wrinkles in it, but it did not affect the driving experience. I would like to see R-Racing do a better job in applying the grip material. The electronics on this wheel have a very professional look to them, with a well laid out custom circuit board and an industry proven Leo Bodner USB conversion board. Just a very tidy solution here. The shifters on the wheel are magnetic units. They have small magnets, so very little effort is required to shift. I personally would like to see larger magnets here to increase the shifting effort. The carbon paddles are 4 millimeters thick, providing a very solid feel when actioning them. I did find the reach to be just a bit short for my small hands. I would like to see an extension solution added in the RS5 kit to allow us to adjust that reach. Driving with the RS5 was a pleasure. It has a stiffness that will surprise you, considering the back housing is made from 3D printed material. Overall, I think this is a good wheel for the sim racer. And I don't want to forget to mention here that R-Racing offers custom options for the grip material and the sticker layout. I'm Barry Rowland. Thanks again for watching the Sim Racing Garage channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you would like to help support what I do here at the SRG, visit my website at simracinggarage.com.